Hey everyone, it's your favorite hostesses with the mostesses. I am Marcus
Karmea Wells, the unorthodox Southern Belle.
and today we are bringing back a very special guest, and he's bringing a friend with him, a app user of the Attorney Shield. You all know him, you all remember him from the Attorney Shield, Mr. CEO David Walton, coming back to the Gentleman Style podcast stage. You all may have remembered him from the conversation, the epic conversation we had, where he's changing the paradigm and the relationship between law enforcement, the legal system, and you and me in order to keep us all safe and arm us with, I call it, an in the pocket app of a lawyer, right? Keep a lawyer in your pocket, literally on call when you need him. And he's changing the world, the landscape for the Black community. Ms. Karmea, what do you think about this? What do you think about this conversation we're about to have? I think it's going to be pretty controversial considering the timing.
You know, I love controversial.
She a little
I
toxic.
live. I wouldn't say toxic. I'm just ready for a discussion.
Absolutely.
But I think this is a great time to discuss things, especially with what's going on in on social media in our society. Why not? Let's hit it head on.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So without further ado, help me welcome these incredible gentlemen. I have Mr. David Walton coming to the stage and his incredible guest, this gentleman who's been a part of the system and is going through the system currently. Help us bring him to the stage. Gentlemen, welcome to the Gentleman Style podcast stage. Woo.
Hey everybody.
Woo.
How we doing, y'all?
This is incredible. We are all black. All black. I love it. I love it. We are representing here. We are representing here. We got Mr. David Walton, CEO of the Attorney Shield, and Mr. DJ Norman. I think you're right, Mr. Norman. We are related somehow. We gotta look back at this ancestry. I can't let them do this to my brother. But how are you gentlemen tonight?
I'm good. So I'm still in college, so I have to balance a stacked schedule. When I say stacked, I'm talking about when are you studying, when you're going to the library, when you're doing homework, when you're going to class, when you're going to work. It's just back to back to back every day. And I got dogs. So it's just busy, man.
Super busy.
Yeah, I don't miss that life, by the way. So I'm doing better than him. We're doing good. No, stay in school, Doug.
Stay in school. Don't give up. Don't give up. And I want to preface it with this warm up. Mr. Walton, you have created something profound, which is the Attorney Shield app. And this app is creating, if you could give us the audience a quick reminder of how this app is changing lives and impacting lives. And then we're going to dive into Mr. Norman, what you're currently going through and how you're being affected by the legal system live at large.
Yeah. So what we've got here is, we built an app just over a year ago, frankly, and we launched April of 2023. But that app allows any of our members to connect with a licensed attorney to help them out, to provide support and information and advocacy during police-initiated contact. And so that's traffic stops. It's if they come to your house, if you're on your bike, if you're walking. A lot of people who walk are targets for police, by the way. It really any situation, if you will. So any situation where police approach you and start asking you questions. Well, if that's happening, they view you as a suspect and you need protection.
Absolutely. And Mr. Walton, Mr. Norman, you are a user of the Attorney Shield app. You just renewed your subscription recently. Tell me why did you download it? What made you download it, and what has been your use and experience with the app?
So what made me download it was my experiences with police throughout my life. We're talking about before Vanderbilt police, we're just being black in America, being targeted. And it could literally be, for example, like high school parties, right? If you had white girls in the car, you're going to a party, all of a sudden a cop would pass you, go through a roundabout and come right back and turn his lights on. Or you'd be going from a movie theater to like maybe a McDonald's, you're walking, before or after the movie to go get some food with friends, and all of a sudden, unmarked vehicle would run up on you and all of a sudden ask for IDs and whatnot. So it just running with police really made me get the app. And I've always watched First Amendment auditors like Sean Reyes or just police channels, like channels that cover cop incidents with the public. And so when I heard of Attorney Shield through Lackluster and through Sean Reyes, I was like, oh, okay. And so I actually pre-ordered before the app was released. And then I was just waiting. And I was like, okay, when is this app coming out? And it came out. I was like, okay, thank God. And Vanderbilt cops, they don't wear body cameras. So having that footage was really crucial to dropping my criminal charges and actually having a civil lawsuit.
So the Attorney Shield app, you used which feature of it? The video portion recording of it, or it provided you an on-the-spot attorney to help represent you at the time of incident? Which feature?
All of the above. All of the above. Everything was critical because I watched your first interview with Mr. Walton, and you discussed me a little bit. At that point, you didn't know me, like you kind of know me more now and whatnot. But yeah, it was very calming in a stressful situation to have somebody who was witnessing everything to make the cops behave more appropriately. They still violated my rights, but at least I wasn't getting punched in the face like that one brother we just saw going. Well, not even just one brother, like, but you know what I mean. So
yeah.
Mr. Walton, how did that make you feel? I you probably get a ton of email every day, all the time about praises and songs. To know that your app has been changing lives over a year now, been helping provide that calm, provide that peace of mind at a not routine. Well, it seems like it's routine stop, continuous stop, and continuous harassment by law enforcement. And how did that make you feel?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. It's a really good question from the perspective that Doug was one of our first legal service requests after we went live. And I think that there were a few things that happened. And so we were aware that it was happening because what we have is behind the scenes, the attorney is able to contact our support and the management structure. And so one thing that Doug had requested whenever he hit the button, right, is for us to notify his emergency contact. Now that happens automatically in the app, but the fact that he asked us to get a hold of her to let her know both via email and a telephone call, we'll take that additional action when requested. Now, there were some remarkable things about what I saw in the video, and I just want to go through maybe just two of those points. So Doug hit the button after the police officer was already had already decided to arrest him, right? And so there wasn't any arguing we could do either way. But whatever the case, that was probably one of the most courteous arrests I've ever seen, right? And what I mean is this officer allowed Doug to engage with the attorney. Her name is Giovanna. And he allowed Doug to maintain contact with the attorney all the way from the point of being handcuffed and put into the squad car, and he placed the phone in Doug's lap. Now, that's remarkable to me, right? And there was never a time where this officer seemed to lose patience. And I think by virtue of being on video, people tend to behave, right? The other thing here was there was something that we noticed with Doug. And so Doug he was really upset that they were arresting him. And I can see his chest rising and him being upset. And Giovanna said some things to him. She gave him a sense of what would happen next. They're going to take you to the police station. Here's what you can expect. Here's what's going to happen. And what I saw in Doug is as he was understanding what he was about to confront from the attorney's experience, he seemed to calm down, right? Because she kept reminding him, don't make any sudden moves, or they can upcharge you with a resisting without violence or some BS like that, right? And so, at the end of the day, those were two very remarkable things, I thought. And it really validated early on the concept that we could help someone like that.
Absolutely. Very
Absolutely.
Mr. Doug, I wanna put the ball back in your court to give some context of what happened. I know you provided the documents, but what was going on? Because this seems to be a trend with Vanderbilt, because it was literally 4 weeks after a situation at the same school with the media team and the media of the school, and how law enforcement was called literally 4 weeks after your incident occurred, in which you had to press charges as well. So can you give some context of what happened, why you initiated the app, what was going on with you, what was going through your head? Can you talk to that, please?
Thank you, and I appreciate you giving me a chance to have a bigger voice. This is really helping me, and maybe because Vanderbilt University only cares about public perception because it's a top 15 university, maybe this will make them change their ways. So Vanderbilt has a history of violating people's rights through criminal trespass. They did it with a reporter named Eli. He was covering anti-genocide protests that were happening at Vanderbilt's campus, and I still was able, even though I was trespassed, able to hand out water and blankets to people who wanted to do the camp protests and whatnot because I had friends doing it. And Vanderbilt didn't like that because, PR, you know why, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they had a reporter arrested because he was trying to cover it. And of course they say, no, it's because he was trying to access a certain building. That's why we arrested him. Like, we know the real reason, right? And so then to save face, Vanderbilt had a third party, Neal and Harwell PLC, a law firm, do a report on that arrest. That arrest happened approximately 3-4 weeks before my arrest with Vanderbilt at the Student Affairs office. And so the report comes out and Vanderbilt's like, oh, we're not going to do this anymore. We're going to follow this report, right? The Neal and Harwell report. 2 weeks later, I get arrested, use the Attorney Shield app, and here we are with a lawsuit. The only reason I came to campus during my leave, because I was on an academic leave and whatnot, was because I was trying to get an order of protection against my ex-girlfriend. She was arrested for criminal harassment, and the school kept like covering it up. And if Vanny didn't cover me getting assaulted up for so long, she actually could have had an assault charge, but the statute of limitations ran out on that. But then she broke up with her next boyfriend and started criminally harassing me, and then she got arrested for that instead. And so I needed documentation from the school, because that same day I was in court trying to get my order of protection. And then what did her attorney bring up? So Vanderbilt lied on the police report, on a police report about me, saying that I had been expelled, essentially to throw off the whole order of protection trial, the whole criminal charge, and protect my ex-girlfriend. And so that attorney gave it to the judge to enter as an exhibit. And the judge looks at it like, well, Mr. Norman, it says you've been expelled, versus your ex, she's a pre-med student. Like, I'm in the School of Engineering, but we're not getting into that, right? But they painted me as this person who was expelled, and then her as this pre-med student who's getting harassed by Mr. Norman through the legal system. And then they just threw out my order of protection. And then the DA called me and said, yeah, we're going to drop her charges. I don't think without you getting that order of protection, we can actually get a conviction on this.
So wait, they made it look like you were trespassing? So because
they made it. Oh, what you asked?
They made it look like you're trespassing because you're expelled?
I've never been expelled. I was on academic leave because once I got assaulted, my grades dropped, and I let the school know, hey, I'm trying to go through the Title IX process. I don't feel safe. This girl has access to my dorm. My roommate witnessed me get assaulted. Me and my roommate black, my ex is white.
Oh.
And yeah, so that was the issue with that. And the school decided, well, you're actually going to go and she's going to stay here, and then you can come back in a year. So that's how Vanderbilt wanted to handle that.
Did you use the app during that? Go ahead, Karmea.
So they went forward to make the decision to say, we're going to go ahead and kick you out, but we're going to keep the person who's causing the issues.
Yeah, because I'll be honest, my grades did drop, but for obvious reasons. So I didn't feel safe.
Did you utilize the app for the incident with your ex?
I did not. The app wasn't released yet. The app didn't get released for, I want to say, maybe another month or so. Okay. So the app wasn't there yet, but I never even called the police to the dorm room once I got assaulted, because she was screaming and threatening me and my roommate. And we're black guys. We're just scared. Like, oh man, if the cops come here, like what all can happen to us, right? So yeah.
Are you still at Vanderbilt?
No, sir. I transferred out.
Okay.
Thank God.
I was really concerned about that. Like,
Yeah, because you cannot be in that type of situation and going through court proceedings being at the same place that pretty much took part in what you're going through it currently.
Took part in everything. They got her
Yeah.
charges dropped. They blew up the order of protection. They booted me off the school. They did trespass me. So that is legitimate. They could trespass whoever, but I mean, who like they trespass me, I'm suing them. So that's just how that goes.
Go ahead. Can the lawyer be extended to assist you in that case as well, or no?
If you're asking about the attorney shield lawyer, no, sir.
The attorney shield
we have
lawyer,
the CEO.
No, we're what we call time utility, right? And so the representation begins at the beginning of the video connection and at the end, right? We don't handle follow-up cases. Now, that's something that we're looking at doing later on. Right now, our law firm is situated in a state where we can't do referrals or co-counsel or anything like that. But we're in the process of evaluating opening a law firm in Arizona, which will allow us to provide follow-up services and referral services for people who need guidance about what to do next.
Absolutely.
So with this particular app, this is nationwide.
Yes, ma'am.
So you guys got an attorney for every state that knows the laws regarding every type of service?
Yeah, let's be clear on that. And so we intentionally limited our scope. And what I mean by that is that we're not going to sit there and litigate on the roadside with respect to, is that, air freshener hanging from your mirror and obstruction of your view, right? We're not going to get into that. We're not there to, lecture police, right? We're there to make sure that there's a lawful investigation. So if you're pulled over, right, we just don't want your rights to be violated during their investigation. And we don't want you to become your own state's evidence by saying the wrong thing, right? Or allowing a search when you really shouldn't allow a search, right? And so the deal is the things that the attorneys are going to challenge the police on is, do you have probable cause for whatever action you're wanting to take? Because if you don't, that's a violation of a person's right. And oh, by the way, there should be no coercion to make this person talk because they have a Fifth Amendment right to remain silent. And so again, just to sum it up, we limited our scope to constitutional rights only, right? We're not going to litigate if your headlight is the wrong color or something like that. We're not going to do all, it's just way too complicated. And that's for the judge to work out anyways. And for an attorney later on, as all the evidence are gathered, we just want to make sure that when the cops are doing their jobs, they're doing it respectfully, they're doing it legally, and we're trying to maintain an environment of safety and collaboration.
Absolutely.
Understood.
The doc is in. Mr. Norman, my brother, I want to bounce back to you because I've been arrested. Handcuffs behind the back. I want to get to the emotions of when you got arrested. Let me read it off of the docket here, so I'm not making up stuff. Mr. Norman is suing Vanderbilt University and 3 of its employees, Lieutenant Alan Reed, Captain C. Stevens, and Director Jeremy Burgeon. The lawsuit alleges false arrest and malicious prosecution stemming from April 24th incident on campus. And so when you talked about, or Mr. Walton talked about that your hands, they didn't cut the feed. They didn't cut the app off. They were still kind of calm with you, even though they were actively arresting you, and they allowed the phone to remain in your lap. Brother, that is traumatic, right? And I want to ask, how did you feel? Were you held overnight? Did they hold you for something? Did they detain you on campus or at the local police? I want to talk through the emotional roller coaster that you must have felt going through that, because that's not easy.
So I was scared. As Mr. Walton mentioned in y'all's last interview, this was a white cop, and then another white cop showed up, and then they had a black woman show up, but we never were able to get her name, so we couldn't sue her and everything. But I was just scared, and I already knew before that point, like, skin folk ain't kinfolk necessarily, right? So just because there's one black officer, I was still scared as if it was all white cops, right? And so I was just scared, and I knew my rights were being violated. But what calmed me was having the attorney talk to me and advocate for me. And during her advocacy, I've actually had Giovanna twice because I had her for a car accident where someone swiped my car, and then she represented me, and to get through the insurance and the cop stuff, right? And then I had her, during my arrest and whatnot. So 2 times I ran into that attorney, and she tried to bring up the prongs of defense against a criminal trespass arrest in Tennessee, which are: did you have reason to think that you could be in that area? Were you interrupting the use of that area? If not, that's a defense. You didn't interrupt anybody. And 3, would you leave if you were asked, right? And so I called the police department. I don't know if you saw this, but I had called Vanderbilt Police Department twice for a total about 12 minutes, right? I called them twice to gain permission to come to the campus. I gave them my name. I told them where I was going. They told me I was all set. All my stuff was passed to the campus supervisor. I showed up for my meeting, and it was all a ruse. It was literally all a ruse just to have me arrested for criminal trespass. And if you read through our document, we show you exactly how that was, right? And so that was the first prong of defense. And the attorney had brought up actually the third prong, which was, hey, he's willing to leave. Can you just let him go? And then she had brought up the first prong, like I said, hey, he thinks he can be here because he had a meeting set up. Can you let him go? And I can't remember if she brought up the second prong of defense or not, which is were you disturbing the area? But obviously I wasn't disturbing the area. I was in a meeting. I was wearing a suit because I just got out of court, and I was just sitting there as respectful as I can possibly be. And yeah, actually, what was your original question? Because I started going on a rant, and I think I hit some of it, but you asked for the emotional roller coaster and what else, sir?
Yeah, you're hitting it. The emotional roller coaster. The representation was spot on. Do you feel you got real good counsel? You've landed with this attorney twice on the app, right? Yes. For other situations, do you feel it was adequate counsel? Okay. And then, did they hold you overnight? Did they just get you off campus and then release you later on?
So they never released me. They never dropped the charges. I asked, hey, how about we go to VUPD, which this is campus. This is off of Weston and 25th. It's just a couple blocks down is where VUPD was. I'm you could easily just drive me in my handcuffs if you want to your police station and talk to dispatch. Did somebody named DJ Norman get permission to come to campus? And they could have checked that. And we make it very clear they could have checked that, and they purposely chose not to because that is Vanderbilt University's policy, right? And so they just took me downtown to where Metro, Vanderbilt's its own police department, their coverage area is the campus and surrounding spots, and Vanderbilt owns different property around Nashville. So VUPD has its own policing power, and they have sworn in officers. And in VUPS, which is Vanderbilt University Public Safety, which is broader, it has campus or community service officers, right? They literally had all that power. And they, as they put on the website, one of the largest police departments in Tennessee, they could have just moved me to their police department, talked to dispatch, or just held me in the student affairs office and talked to dispatch. They chose not to. They take me downtown to where Metro also takes people, and they have me booked and charged with criminal trespass. And as we also lay out in our complaint, the only reason they got a charge was because the cop lied on the affidavit
and said you were expelled.
So they just, at that point, they were at that specific document though, they changed it to former student.
Can I say something about this scenario? Because Doug brings up a really good point about police are supposed to protect and serve, right? And protecting and serving means everybody. Even if you're a suspect, when you're in their custody, it's their job to do thorough investigations, and it's their job to keep you safe while you're in their custody, right? It's not their job to beat you down because they don't like something you said. It's not their job to take shortcuts in when it comes to arresting somebody, right? And so to me, I've seen several situations. I mean, endless situations. Forget several. It's endless situations where all the police had to do is ask one more question or take a simple additional step. And it's almost like they bias toward the arrest and let the court sort it out later on. And the reason for that is that, police act as though, and they will never admit that they have department quotas, but they do. They call them departmental standards. And even if you watch any of the police training videos online, there's a number of police training companies that put their stuff online. They actually talk about departmental standards, like a couple of your guys aren't getting the arrests they need to get, right? And so when you start putting quotas on people, it lowers the threshold for engagement, and it also it decreases the amount of investigative work, thorough investigative work that police will do in order to make sure that they're not arresting someone who's otherwise innocent. They frankly can't prioritize innocence. They only prioritize the arrest, and they let the courts and the attorneys work it out. And frankly, that's the wrong incentive, and it's the wrong approach. And that's one of the things that need to change about law enforcement is, we watch these old shows where the cops are doing all the, skunk work and investigative work, and they get the real bad guy in the end. Well, today it doesn't work like that. The bad guys never get caught, right? Because the police are lazy about investigations in many respects, right? And it's, frankly, people like Doug make easier targets.
Absolutely. Absolutely. At what point, and Mr. Walton, if you could clarify this, at what point did the attorney, this is all video still, all this whole thing. At what point does she come in and actually meet at either in jail to try and talk to the judge or work the case, or is she completely remote, working on your behalf the entire time? Did she come, and also did she come when you followed up in court, and did she come out and represent you then and there?
Yeah, at this time there's no follow-up services, right? This is all about getting you through the moment. And so look, I think the thing that you have to grapple with is, why do people have to spend $2,500 to $10,000 on an attorney when they probably shouldn't have had to in the first place? And it's because maybe some mistakes were made during that stop and during that investigation. And so, the deal is much of the industry and much of the advocacy groups focus on recidivism after a person is already in prison when they probably shouldn't have been in prison. They focus on, we need legislation to change the hearts and minds of corrupt officers. That's never going to happen, right? And the politicians aren't going to do that anyways, because any legislation that somehow, pulls power back from the police is going to be viewed as anti-police, and that's political suicide. And so at the end of the day, this is an independent way of at least giving a person a chance in the moment when it matters most, right? The best defense against getting arrested is to not get arrested, right? Because once you get arrested, you're in the system, right? And so can I ask a question of everybody? I think, obviously we know Doug's been arrested. I've been arrested. Marcus, you've been arrested. You haven't been arrested. So here's the deal.
Lying. She is lying.
This is good. It's okay, Karmea. It's fine. We needed one to say no, because do you know that we're actually beating the odds? 1 in 3 American adults, or 79 million people, have an arrest record here in the United States, right? That's 1 in 3 people. So every third person, right, that statistically has been arrested, has been in cuffs, or been in the pokey, or whatever you want to call it, right? Why is that? Why is it that so many Americans, 1/3 of Americans have been arrested? It's because we over police at the end of the day. And if you think about what happens on the back end of that, right? Do most cases end up where the person goes to jail long term and have a really bad conviction, or they go to prison for several years? No. Most people, the cases like Doug's, are dismissed after the fact because there's no evidence of wrongdoing. And so what we've got is a law enforcement system, criminal justice system, that really doesn't give a crap about the quality of the policing, and they don't give any consideration to the affordability of people being able to hire an attorney to petition to the court to defend their case, right? And the reason why we end up with more convictions than we should is because people just can't afford the attorney. So they depend on the public defender that's just trying to, rack them and stack them through the system, and they encourage them to plead some type of lesser charge, and the DA takes it because it's another tick on his belt. This whole thing is messed up, right? And one step at a time. But I'm of the opinion that so long as I'm involved with this company and with this cause, there are things that we can do to slowly move that back to where people have better protection and police have less power to essentially arrest people who are otherwise innocent.
Well, I feel go ahead, Karmea.
No, well, with this situation, you were stating all the process that people have to go through to prove their innocence, and I'm thinking about even after they prove their innocence, if they are let go, being a Black man and or woman, let me not forget us. Even if you're proven innocent, living life after that in our society, you have a soiled reputation even after being proven innocent.
Karmea, so that is spot on. You know, Marcus and I talked about this on the last interview. We talked about the fact that once you have an arrest record, your probability of achieving a high-paying position drops dramatically, right? Because we have these things called background checks. And so if you want to work for the bank, or you want to work for the government, or even enlist in the military, right? Or, you know, become an officer in the military, that requires a waiver in the military, right? The deal is it's a scarlet letter that's placed on you for the rest of your life, and there's nothing you can do about it. And people will judge you for it all day long. I don't care what they say about, oh no, you're innocent until proven guilty, and if they drop the charges, you must be innocent. No, they look at the arrest. They don't look at a conviction.
Absolutely. We have someone live here, Mr. Norman. How has this impacted your life as a young man coming up in the United States, making his way, leaving a mark? How has this impacted your reputation? How has this impacted your future as a young professional? How do you feel it's been as a Black man in the U.S.?
So I can speak to so many points. Y'all have made so many great points, by the way. So how has it impacted me? For example, I was ostracized by a lot of the school because this is a statistic you might not necessarily know about Vanderbilt. 50% of the kids come from the top 10% of wealth in the country, right? And then like it's just a lot of rich kids, and these families kind of push reputation and connection. So all of a sudden, when your friend gets arrested, what does your rich daddy do? For example, Mark Cuban's daughter, Vanderbilt. The woman who played Iron Man's wife, her kid, Vanderbilt. Like you tell me, these are like rich people going to these top 20 universities because, you know, they go to better schools, they get into better schools. That's another issue. In fact, Vanderbilt had to settle like $50 million because it was found out them and a lot of other top 20 universities were selecting only rich kids to go to their school. Hence why you get stats where 50% of your people are in the top 10% of the country. So that's a whole different discussion. But getting ostracized and less connections on LinkedIn and less opportunities. But luckily, I'm working with an engineering firm now, and I'm doing my internship / like an independent contractor sort of situation there with them. And, you know, I'm transitioning from like, you know, you have those stereotypical like college jobs and whatnot, and then you have to transition into your big boy internship, right? And so luckily I was able to overcome that, but that was me. Most people can't overcome that. It cost me thousands of dollars to have criminal defense. And then keep in mind, what all did Vanderbilt blow up? They blew up my order of protection. Well, that was thousands of dollars to get an attorney. They blew up, it had me arrested. That was thousands of dollars. So it just kept adding up to wear on me. What if I was like the average person who just didn't have any money in the bank? Because I'll be honest with you, my parents didn't pay for anything. They don't pay my rent. They don't pay anything for me. Like, this is all me. So that really could have crushed me going through that.
I was just about to ask you, are you rich? How did you get into Vanderbilt? If 35, you said 35% are coming from what?
Good grades, playing sports, having extracurriculars, good essay.
Wow. Wow. But you are working. You are currently got an engineering contract job.
Yes, but I'm not an engineer yet because I haven't graduated, right? Like, so that's the thing. I'm still in school. I'm taking my 3,000, 4,000 level classes, but I'm working at this firm as an internship, and I'm hoping to secure a job offer for when I graduate so I can transition smoothly directly into my next step.
We'll go ahead and speak that into existence. Since
I'm
you
hoping. Thank you. And there's one more thing I wanted to say. Yeah. I like these effects you have. I noticed that watching your videos. I'm like, they have some nice effects on here.
Yeah.
But
the audience is crazy.
This speaks to quotas. The audience is crazy. This speaks to the quotas that Mr. Walton had brought up earlier. So the cop, one of the supervising officers who arrested me, it was Captain Charles Stevens, right? He is now Major Charles Stevens because he was promoted for arresting me. And it's a false arrest that he's getting sued for and the school's getting sued for. But hey, man, the Vanderbilt loves that. So he just got a promotion. So I was like, okay, so that's how they feel about that. Quotas.
What is your desired outcome? What do you want to see happen? Is it justice? Is it money compensation for the thousands of dollars that you lost? What is your desired outcome, or what do you want to happen with these lawsuits? With your lawsuit against?
I want publicity, right? Publicity about this issue, because keep in mind, a report, the Neal and Harwell report, came out 2 weeks prior to my arrest, and Vanderbilt had promised everybody, oh, that reporter got arrested, but we had a law firm do an independent review and we're going to follow these guidelines. You didn't follow the guidelines. In fact, we're going to use that document against you in court because you chose not to follow those guidelines, right? And I think that might be why the judge lets us move forward, but we're still fighting through this motion to dismiss, right? But I want to see body cameras on not just VUPD. I want to see it like Vanderbilt Police Department. I want to see it on the community service officers because they play a significant role on the campus. And I want to see cab cameras so we have a view of the cop and a view of the passengers, right? If we're going to call us passengers, Uber riders, whoever, whatever you want to call us, who end up in their hot cars, right? And then we want to have dash cameras to see what's happening in the front of the vehicle. Because let me do this little segue real quick. There was a girl, like if you look up Emily Vanderbilt, you'll see her stuff. What happened is she went to the school and she wanted to get a rape kit done. A little black girl, right? And so she had to interact with a community service officer. And what the school ended up doing, because Vanderbilt has a hospital and they have a psych ward, I personally know 2 people they forced into the psych ward. A rape kit you have to do in 3 to 7 days. They made sure to put her in there for 8 days. And then her parents had to come get her, take her home. Little black girl. I know a white guy who got thrown in the psych ward. What happened with him? He was in a car accident. And when the paramedics found him, he was muttering like Bible verses and stuff. He just wasn't like where we are. He wasn't here with us for a little bit. And what did the school think? Oh, he's kind of crazy. Psych ward. I'm telling you, this is all true. I swear, I put it on me, on God, on my mom, everything. Like Vanderbilt throws people in psych wards, primarily students that I know of, but who knows what they throw in there. It's just they use their power and being a private university and control of the media in Tennessee to keep all of this out of the public's eye. And so, we're talking about that. Like, oh, what you say?
No, you're right. And what I want to give credit again, I want to pay homage to Mr. Walton because he's addressing a common problem, right? Without the Attorney Shield app, the biggest thing that you're repeatedly saying is you had evidence, right? Mm-hmm. Whereas you didn't have to rely on someone else's word. You didn't have to rely on someone else's he say, she say, the lieutenant, who, the crooked cop, the black judge or the black man or this person, that person. You had hard evidence that could not be disputed. And you had immediate representation when you needed it in that crisis moment. And so because Mr. Walton and his company is addressing a huge problem that I appreciate you, brother. I'm sorry you went through this, man.
Yeah, I am too. I'm going to tell you what, I'm a big history buff guy. So if you look around, I read a bunch of books, and that can be problematic sometimes because it takes time to do that in mass. But whatever the case, let's talk about why policing ultimately is the way it is, right? And so we all know in the present day, but also in the past, that law enforcement doesn't really have an obligation to protect us. They don't. There's no legal obligation for even a police to intervene. If they're walking by while you're getting mugged and they keep walking, you can't sue them because they didn't come in and help you, because there's not an obligation to save you as an individual. Their obligation is more nebulous, meaning general public safety. But here's what that general public safety means. What do police or law enforcement agencies in general prioritize? They prioritize the wealthy and the powerful, right? If you think about it, they don't police those areas as much because they don't want to piss anybody off and get a call to the mayor and then to the police chief, right? They don't do any of those things to piss off the wealthy and powerful, because that can end a police officer's career if they literally try and force the law on the wrong person, right? But guys like us, they don't give a damn, right? And so at the end of the day, you got quotas. At the end of the day, you got a policing system that really dates all the way back to the slave patrols and the union busters, right? The slave patrols worked for the plantation owners, and they were deputized to go round up slaves and anybody that aided and abetted an escaped slave. Then you move forward to the 20th century, and you've got back in 1918 between 1918 and 1930s, right? That's really where sort of the union busting happened. So people would strike, and what do they send in? They send in the thug police to bust that stuff up and get people back in there, right? And so if you think about it, that happened. And then you got Jim Crow, another situation where a lot of people don't understand peonage, right? Peonage, you call a person a peon. Well, peonage was an actual system that we adopted where, hey, let's create these crazy laws that we're only going to enforce on black people. Let's get them to go to the prison camps and do free labor for us. That was called peonage, right? And so everything that has come out of our history of how we've unfairly and preyed on poorer people or people with less power is exactly where we're at today. And so think about what's happening now with, ICE and sort of the government sort of ramping up sort of law enforcement's role, right? And how that's emboldening even local police to get involved and shoot rubber bullets in anybody, including, the press, right? That's normal. That's a day in the park for policing when you look at it from a broader sense.
Absolutely. This is an incredible conversation that I don't think we'd ever get to this point. Karmea, you had a question earlier. Who was it for? Was it just kind of a broad question, or to anyone? Or
I'm sorry, I forgot the question.
Yeah, good.
Don't do that. I was listening. I'm sorry, I forgot the question that I did ask. Is I asked earlier about. I remember asking about what type of services that there were, but I think he answered it. He answered that already.
He did.
But
so, Mr. Walton, can you speak to that? What services does this app full on provide? We touched on it, but I think to give people perspective of and a refresher of your previous interview.
Yeah, I think what's important to understand is that Attorney Shield in and of itself is a tech company, right? We provide a cloud-based tech and mobile app that allows people that essentially serves as the glue to bring our members who have the app on their phone and connect them with an available attorney, right? And so what services come with that? Well, obviously the main service is when you hit the button, we want you to connect with an attorney immediately so that you have that support throughout the police-initiated contact. That can be a DPS situation, Department of, Children and Families. Those generally last long. It could be a commercial driver who gets pulled over for a class 3 inspection. It could be any of those things, right? And so, but what comes with the service also is you have the ability to upload your driver's license, your insurance information. If you're a 2A person, you can upload your concealed carry permit, and all of that's in the app so that you don't have to minimize the app and have the video cut out so that you're fumbling around for other stuff. It's all self-contained, right? Also, when you hit that button, you get 2 emergency contacts. That emergency contact can be set up to send via email or via text. We recommend text because people ignore their emails, but they don't generally ignore their text, right? And that text or email comes with a geolocation link that tells that person exactly where you were or are when you hit the button. So an example of that is we had a member, this was a family plan where the father bought a family plan for his entire family. The daughter one day is making a right-hand turn. She hits a pedestrian, right? Now, the pedestrian was okay, right? But it really freaked her out. And so she's telling the attorney, hey, can you call my dad? Can you call my dad? So the attorney hits support, and support's trying to reach the dad, but we're getting his voicemail, right? Well, 10 minutes later, he's on site. He was just, book and tail to get there because he knew exactly where she was. And so what we're doing is we're trying to say, okay, it's not enough to just get a person with an attorney. We want an entire sort of technology ecosystem around what else can we do to support that person in this very stressful moment. And, we may not need all of those things. It may just be a routine stop. You got a Barney Fife who pulled you over. He's chatting with you. And all right, well, just slow it down, right? But if it doesn't turn out that way, people at least know where you are. You've got all your documents ready to go, and you got an attorney there to support you.
Absolutely.
So with the plans that you offer for this particular app, is it annually or is it monthly? Weekly?
Yeah, we're flexible. It's annual, monthly, and semi-annual, right? And so a member can, there's some pricing discounts that you get if you do the semi-annual and annual, but it starts at $14 a month, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, spending $14 a month is sort of a peace of mind that if you end up in this situation, I haven't been stopped in 2 years, but I'll still pay $14 a month to make sure that when I'm stopped, I got some backup.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Mr. Norman, you mentioned, I think I heard you didn't have a whole lot of support with all the costs you've incurred, with all the emotional damage. Has there anyone been a support system? Who has been a support system besides the wise counsel you've gotten throughout all of this? Who has been someone that's kind of helped you get through this? Because again, this is hard. It's not easy. Thank God for the app, right? And thank God you didn't get beat up or attacked or violated in any other way. But who has been a big support, a rock, a foundation for you?
Well, my parents have been an emotional support for me, right? But they live in Georgia. I live in Tennessee, and I'm not gonna lie, my hometown is boring. So I rather would live in Nashville than to live in Columbus, Georgia and whatnot. But shout out Colga 706, shout them out. It's just a little boring there, y'all. And then I figure out who my true friends are, not the fake friends. Because think about my position. I was arrested in the school. It wasn't just the school putting it on an affidavit and telling people that. It was that affidavit got spread. I don't know if y'all have accounts like this, but there's something called Scoop Nashville where mugshots and affidavits are posted on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. They just post your face and what the cops wrote, and it spreads all around. And think about a college campus. Vandy's an SEC school, but it's like 5,000 people, right? It's not like 20,000 plus people. It's 5,000 people. That went through the whole school. And I was telling people, no, Vanderbilt's lying. I've never been expelled. And they're kind of just looking at me like, I'm like, why would this?
They don't believe you?
They didn't believe me. People didn't believe me until this started progressing. I kept saying it over and over and over, and the school kept being quiet. And people are like, wait a second. When stuff happens with the school sends out an alert to the whole community and the alumni saying this is what happened. When the anti-genocide protests were happening, they were quick to post the footage up and to be like, look, 2 guys, they pushed that CSO officer to get in the building. Look, these are the bad guys, not us. And then people started realizing, Vanderbilt's being very quiet about Doug's stuff. And then people started realizing,
they call that the wall of shame, where they literally post mug shots and they don't really care how that impacts you personally. Where I'm in Florida, and Florida is really like, there's some sheriffs who will literally, while they're arresting the person, right, they'll have someone show up with a camera, and then on their social media, it'll be the sheriff walking in front of this person who's sitting on the ground in handcuffs. And if you come to our county, we're going to do the same thing to you. That's absolute BS. This isn't some reality TV police show, right? That people should not be treated that way. It's absolutely asinine. It's absolutely immature. It's unprofessional. And I just don't know why people celebrate that. It's absolutely ridiculous. They celebrate it until it happens to them. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden the light bulb goes off, right? Now, let me tell you something. Look, we're all black and we know what it is, right? But guess what? White
Except
people,
Karmea.
Well, she still knows what it is, right? But let me tell you something. This is anybody who's white who's watching this, right? Look, you may think that you're safe because the only people you see getting their heads cracked and arrested are black people. But guess what? The statistics don't lie. There are more white people that are harmed by police than black people all day long. It just doesn't get the news, right? It's not a juicy story. But guess what? You're just as vulnerable because they may not care about black people, but guess what? They don't care about you either, right? Especially if you want to exercise your rights, which they view as challenging their authority. They don't care who you are. You do that, you better be somebody who's wealthy and influential, like a Scotty Scheffler or something, on your way to, to the Masters in Augusta, Georgia, right? You better be that guy. Otherwise, if you challenge their authority, you risk getting your ass beat down, right? And so to me, white people need to wake up because this isn't a black problem, right? This is an everybody problem. And I think white people take comfort in, the cops won't treat me the way they treat that guy. Well, maybe not as often, but they still do. This is your problem too.
Absolutely.
And Mr. Norman, with you going through this process now, you stating that you're still living in Tennessee. Even after all of this is done, you get your desired outcome. Would you still feel comfortable living there? Or do you plan to move?
If I'm being honest with you, I don't think it's going to be different anywhere else.
Mm.
You know what I mean? We're still going to be black everywhere we go, and there's a police problem
definitely.
everywhere in America. So I might as well live in a place where there's things to do, there's places to see. And then honestly, as a black person, your best shot is to make enough money that if something goes wrong, you have money for counsel, because it started off as the slave trade and slave catchers, right? And it's now really a classism issue, but they want us to focus on the racism. So we're fighting each other instead of fighting the elites. And I'm not saying your doctor, your engineer, your lawyer, those aren't the elites. The elites are the people who can lobby the politicians, and they make their laws, and they fund the Democrat, they fund the Republican. So no matter who gets in, they win and we lose. That's what the issue is in this country, right? So we're going to have, think about it. There's money in private prisons. There's money. You get paid to keep people like slaves, right? You get paid for that. So of course we're going to have this issue. They want us to be focused on getting out of jail. The system is really set up to have money. Like, you have to have money to get through this system. You get a slap on the wrist, you get the warning, you get XYZ, your kid gets out, whatever. You have to have money. So that's my end goal, have money. And that's the only way I can really be protected in this country. But hey, man, I might move to Africa, like Ghana specifically. We'll just see what happens with that.
Oh, there's a lot of corrupt. Trust me, I've been there. There's a lot of corrupt police. They generally leave Americans alone, but corruption overseas is pretty bad, especially in like places like Kenya, Uganda, and Zimbabwe. But something that I'll add is that if you guys can look these stats up on Google, but we're about 5 years away from, if nothing changes, in which it's already kind of changing. But if nothing changes, there's going to be a huge cliff in terms of incarcerated people. And if you don't think CEOs of private prisons aren't looking at that and thinking, oh, geez, we're about to lose revenue because we're not going to have as many beds filled, because with exonerations and frankly, better protections for people, including what we're doing with Attorney Shield, but there are other solutions that you can use. They're going to be there. So what we're doing is we're coming on the tail end of the war on crack and all that stuff. The whole Bill Clinton stuff that happened in the 90s, where they criminalized Black communities for the drugs that they put into those communities, right? And so they've now unwound that, but there's still people in prison who are treating out of the prison system. Now, here's the deal. You wonder why we've got this whole focus on rounding up illegals, as they call them, or whatever. This is all about economics. This is about filling beds, guys. This isn't about a safer country. This isn't about, protecting Americans. This isn't about getting rid of the worst of the worst. They're getting rid of grandma, who's been here for 75 years, right? And never had even a speeding ticket, right? And has a valid visa, but it got revoked based on some, executive order, right? And so this is all about serving the corporate interest at the end. Like I said earlier, police and law enforcement are not here to protect us, right? Now, do they sometimes? Yeah, I get it, right? But that is not their obligation. They're not legally obligated, and we know they're not obligated because they do a lot of harm, right? Not all officers, but a lot of harm happens. I mean, the gentleman who got punched in the face and yanked out of his car, that was absolutely unnecessary. But you guys get what I'm saying. they're not here for us. And so the deal is police are willing co-conspirators because, you know, when you hear about ICE officers getting bonuses for as many people as they can round up, what is that, right?
That's a business.
It's a business.
That's a sales business. That's a sales move.
Yeah.
And to touch on I want to play the clip. Thank you for allowing me to warm me up there. But this is tragic. When I saw it, and it's going viral, and it's crazy what's happening right.
Exit the vehicle now. Exit the vehicle. Show me your hands. Here. I'm here. What is your reason, sir? Step out. What is your reason? Step out now. All right.
No.
That
Karmea, you didn't see that before?
Oh, I've seen it. It just makes me angry every time I see it.
I can see it on your face, and it should make you angry. Go ahead, Marcus. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. What? So he's doing. You mentioned this earlier, Mr. Norman. How did that make you feel when you saw that clip? Again, this is happening. This keeps happening to us. How did that make you feel when you saw that clip for the first time?
Angry. When I see these, I'm just being real with you. When I see stuff like this, I think of like, well, we have a Second Amendment. Let's ride at dawn. Like, we have to protect ourselves. That's how. I own a pistol. I happen to live in a free state, so we have constitutional carry essentially here. And so stuff like that, and along with other guns and whatnot. But like, I'm very big on that. I grew up in the South. I like to shoot, ride four-wheelers. I'll have my compound bow as well. You didn't feel me. I say we have to protect ourselves. That's how I feel about that.
You are Tremors, the guy from Tremors.
Don't tread on me.
Mr. Walton, you pointed out some things that young man did correctly, but there's also things in there that he didn't do as well. Can you speak on that? Because the app does the similar thing. Can you touch on that a little bit? How did that make you feel when you saw it?
So here's what I'll say about that gentleman. He was in the right, meaning they should have never pulled him over in the first place. I've never seen a traffic stop. Never seen a traffic stop where it's daytime, no rain, no fog, no clouds, no anything, no smoke. But they tell you they pulled you over because you didn't have your headlights on. Now, most cars come with running lights, but here's sort of the poor tax people pay is that if you don't have a vehicle that turns those on automatically, you're a target by police, right? And so this is, again, why the less money you make, the more likelihood you're going to come in contact with police. But here's what that gentleman did right. Number one, his window couldn't roll down, right? And so another indicator that he's not a wealthy guy, because a wealthy guy would never have a car where the window doesn't roll down. So he immediately just opens the door, and they take issue with that by saying, why are you getting out of the car? Well, my window doesn't work. He's explaining everything, right? The only thing I think he did wrong is when they asked him to get out of the car and he shut the door. That's putting your own safety. Now, did he have every right to shut his door because they should have never pulled him over in the first place? Absolutely. But if you want to come home at night to your family, we'll litigate what they did wrong after the fact. Your job is to survive, right? And keep right? Your job is to survive and not get beat down or get shot or get, bludgeoned to death, right? And so to me, what our attorneys are trained to do is, you may not feel like you need to ID, right? But if that officer is about to arrest you or you put hands on you, that attorney is going to strongly recommend you avoid that and deal with the civil rights violation later on, because you don't want your family filing that on your behalf because you're gone, if that makes sense.
That makes absolute sense.
So I think that's the only thing he did wrong. The police totally goofed that up, right? They totally escalated. I don't know why, but police fail to use almost 100% in situations like that their de-escalation training. I don't even think they get that. If they do, they're certainly not paying attention in class, or maybe they all got Fs, right? Because we do not see that de-escalation occurring. And the deal is to me, if you there's a marked difference between that kid's video and Doug's video. Doug's video, there was video from Doug's perspective, right? Not body cam video, but video from Doug's perspective. And because of that, and the fact that there was an attorney present, that officer was extremely patient. Right? He could have done more, but he was patient. He didn't snatch Doug around or do anything like that. Not like this other kid. This other kid, if he didn't have his own video, the body cam did not capture the essence of how they violated his rights and beat him down. And so when you watch the body cam video, you listen to Sheriff TK Water say, oh, no, they used force and they should have used force because he was obstructing, right? Nuh-uh. I'm sorry. There's not a judge or a jury that's going to agree with you. So you can say that all you want to, TK, right? But at the end of the day, right, that kid's video shows exactly how screwed up your officers were and how they did not even follow their own police department policy. And so, again, that's my assessment of the situation. And I just think that you want to be able to go home one day. You don't want to end up in a box.
I have that clip of the officer's point of view from the body cam. So I want
Step out of the vehicle. No, step out of the vehicle.
Yes, sir.
Is there a reason why you're popping the door open like that?
I don't have a window that works. Is there a reason that you're pulling me over?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a reason why I'm pulling you over. For one thing, inclement weather, you don't have your lights on. Two things, you're not wearing your seatbelt.
It's daylight. I don't need the lights, and it's not weather. It's not raining.
Oh, this is inclement.
It's not raining.
Okay, I'm not arguing with you. I'm telling you why I'm pulling you over. Give me your driver's license, registration, proof of insurance.
No, call your supervisor. Why?
Excuse me?
Call your supervisor. Why did you pull me over?
37, 35. I'm proper driver. I've already told you.
Why did you pull me over?
Step out of the vehicle.
No.
Step out of the vehicle. 25 seconds. For 9-4, the driver just slammed the door and locked it. Yep. I've already told you. Okay. Okay. Right now you're under arrest for resisting. You understand? You're under arrest for resisting. The longer you take us on, the worse it's going to be. Sir, this is your last warning to open the vehicle and exit before we're going to break the window. Open the door and exit or we are going to break the window. Open the door and exit or we are going to break the window.
Well, we're conducting a traffic stop right now. You need to comply.
No, he's under arrest.
Hey, I'm out of the car. I'm going to push it up.
Yeah.
I hope that lawsuit has them on their back.
Well, he's got Ben Crump, and so that's your best chance.
But it's going to be taxpayer dollars. That's the issue with that. It's not going to be pensions. It's not going to be any salary cut. It's at least with Vanderbilt, they're private. It's going to be their money, not the public's money. So,
did you exit your video? Okay.
I just wanted to address Doug's point about why taxpayers need to be concerned. Is that every time this happens, it comes out of our wallets, right? It comes out of a lot of people think, oh, the government. Well, where does the government get their money, right? And so if they're paying out like $3 million, $25 million, especially if somebody dies, $300 million lawsuit settlements, right? Some of the insurance is paying for some of it, right? But we're on the hook for that as taxpayers. And so policing already takes up a huge amount of our public budget at the local level. On top of that, you got to pay for the lawsuits for the police not doing their jobs properly. It's freaking terrible.
Yeah. Someone I posted the video on my Facebook page, and someone said the officer was in the right because he told him to exit the car. But Mr. Norman, I heard you earlier. Your attorney, when you on the attorney app, was saying, "Hey, if he leaves the campus, can y'all just let him go?" Right? If he's willing to leave, were you willing to leave?
Willing to leave. I was in a meeting. Keep in mind, I had
that was actually on the video.
Okay.
That was on the video, right?
It was on the
video.
I
had like that 10-minute call with VUPD dispatch. That was the first call, and then a 2-minute call. Also, fun fact: I haven't squeezed this in. Vanderbilt University has deleted multiple minutes out of my call with their police department, and they're trying to pass it off. I have the call logs that prove the time, and theirs is shorter than what we need. And their whole motion to dismiss is saying I didn't properly gain permission, and they only made that because they deleted that portion of the audio where I gave an ETA and asked, am I good? Because there was 2 calls, right? 2 minutes in the second call, I gave an ETA. Am I good to show up on campus? And they said yes. The dispatcher said yes. All your information was passed to the campus supervisor, which is the supervising officer on duty at that exact moment, right? So Vanderbilt deleted that, and that's just what I wanted to say before that, right? And then, so first prong of defense, I had a meeting. I was in a meeting. I was talking to Jessica Carter. We were in the student affairs office. She's the administrative assistant to Dean Neil Jamerson, right? And Jeremy Burgoyne, the head of the Student Accountability and Honor Council and all that, he ordered her to stall me for cops. She also said that on the video, right? And so it's just like, it's so bad for Vanderbilt, but we just have to keep going and fighting through this. But yeah, like
you actually see on the video where they throw him under the bus.
Say it again.
We actually capture the video where on his way out, he's trying to appeal to these people. You invited me to be here, and they throw him under the bus. They act like he's not supposed to be there, right? But he was meeting with them before, right? And so to me, this is, look, that I think the Vanderbilt thing is a whole different issue. I think when you go back to the guy in the video up in Jacksonville, he should have never been pulled over in the first place. And so my question is, if I'm a judge, I'm like, what's the probable cause? Right? Why'd you pull him over? Because if there wasn't probable cause, everything that happened after that is on the police, right? And I don't believe there was probable cause. And the guy tried to say, well, your seatbelt's not on. He took his seatbelt off to open the door, right? Come on, man.
They said he had weed on him. I think
well,
later
they're gonna smear him however they want. I'll still say this: I don't give a crap if they found 10 kilos of freaking cocaine in the back seat. If they didn't have probable cause, that cannot be entered as evidence in the story.
Fruit of the poisonous tree.
Fruit of the poisonous tree. Thank you very much.
Here's what the sheriff had to say on his officers.
The black sheriff.
The black, our brother who is not here.
Good evening. Of course, I'm Sheriff T.K. Waters. This is Director Ed Cayenne from our Director of Homeland Security and Investigations. Our integrity unit also falls underneath him. That's why he's joining me up here this evening. Today, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office is releasing information regarding the circumstances of William Anthony McNeil Jr.'s arrest on February 19th of 2025. Yesterday, while I was in church, JSO became aware that cell phone camera footage purportedly of this arrest was circulating on social media. At my direction, the agency immediately began both a criminal and administrative review of the officer's actions. These administrative reviews are ongoing, but the State Attorney's Office has determined that none of the involved officers violated criminal law. Even though the administrative review has yet to be completed, we are releasing the body-worn camera footage today because Officer Bowers has consented to its release and waived his officer's bill of rights pertaining to the discrete piece of evidence. Because the administrative review is pending, the officer's bill of rights prevents me from releasing any additional information beyond these videos, as it is confidential under Florida Statute 112.532. As JSO's leader, I have vowed to be open and transparent with the public that we serve. Whether the information shared reflects well in this agency or not, I have always done my very best to tell the public exactly what's going on within the agency. When there are allegations of officer misconduct, our agency thoroughly investigates those allegations. When allegations of officer misconduct are sustained, we hold officers accountable, as I've done many times in the past. In this case, the cell phone camera footage that began viral circulation over the weekend does not comprehensively capture the circumstances surrounding this incident, and that is to be expected. Part of that stems from the distance and perspective of the recording cell phone camera. Another part of it stems from the fact that the cell phone camera did not capture the events that preceded Officer Bowers' decision to arrest McNeil. Moreover, cameras can only capture what can be seen and heard. So much context and depth are absent from recorded footage because the camera simply cannot capture what is known to the people depicted in it. As a 33-year law enforcement officer, I understand the importance of thorough and complete investigations. One piece of evidence considered in a vacuum without any context can lead to skewed conclusions. When incomplete cell phone camera footage becomes the basis on which public opinion turns, the results can be equally faulty. A rush to judgment, whether it be in a criminal investigation or in a court of public opinion, can lead to flawed conclusions. Tonight, I'm sharing the footage from the body-worn cameras of the arresting officer, Officer D. Bowers, and two of the assisting officers, Officer D. Miller and Officer G. Curse, so that the public has more complete understanding of this incident. Before I deliver the currently available information and play the relevant body-worn camera, I want to be clear about something. Yes, there absolutely was force used by the arresting officers, and yes, that force is ugly. But as I've said many times before, the reality is that all force, all violence is ugly. And just because force is ugly does not mean it's unlawful or contrary to policy. But moreover, I want to provide the public with some background information pertinent to this incident. Since January 1st, 2025, Jacksonville Sheriff's Office has been involved in 38,805 traffic stops. Even as I speak, that number is climbing. The overwhelming majority of these tens of thousands of traffic stops were made without incident. After this traffic stop on February 19, 2025, McNeil was arrested for resisting a police officer without violence, driving on a suspended driver's license, and possession of less than 20 grams of marijuana. On February 20, 2025, McNeil pled guilty to and was adjudicated guilty of resisting a police officer without violence and driving on a suspended driver's license. Those pleas of guilty were accepted by a local judge who found them to have been
I got a few things, like two main things to say about that, right? His argument, and as soon as people start having cell phones and start recording these incidents, what have cops said? Essentially, they're saying, who do you believe, me or your lying eyes? We saw what happened.
But they're dismissing the video. They're saying that the video can still be false.
The video.
He's giving overseer with Coke bottles, okay? And I'm sitting there like, so you're gonna tell us what we saw was not what happened, and they're gonna throw all his past judgments in front of us and make it seem like this was justified. See what he did in the past?
That is par for the course. It's their standard operating procedure to smear the person whose rights were violated. What I'll say is that there's some key things that Sheriff Waters said. He says, it is the right of the officer he waived his right to keep the video under wraps, right? And, and to me, I didn't know there was a right where they get to say so. That's public data, right? The officer shouldn't get a say, but they're very particular of protecting the officer's rights, but they don't give a crap about the citizens' rights, right? And then TK talked about, the cameras. There weren't enough cameras to give you a full view of what's happening. I would venture to say that the gentleman's the person who was harmed, the driver, his footage was better than the body cam footage. That's evident, right? And so to Doug's point, don't believe what you're seeing. Look at this and believe what we tell you that means, right? Here's something else. I don't know if I mentioned this, Marcus, in our last interview, but we had one of our people sit down with Sheriff TK Waters. This is before we even went live. And we wanted to so we talked to the police chief of San Francisco. We talked to Sheriff TK Waters. We talked to the former sheriff of here in St. Johns County. But here's how that went, right? TK's first reaction to Attorney Shield was, I don't want your attorneys telling my officers what to do. And the response to that was, well, why would we do that, right? We're simply there to make sure that the investigation is lawful and that nobody's rights are violated. But if your officer is about to violate somebody's rights, don't you want a little tap on the shoulder? Because that could save you a huge PR nightmare and, settlement money, right? He agreed to that, right? Then he says, well, I don't understand why it's got to be recorded video. We already have body cam video. We already have this stuff. Interestingly enough, TK Waters' wife is a detective on that same police department or sheriff's department.
You
right?
serious?
Yes. Guess what she said? She chimed in. I was smacking him down by saying, no, I think having more cameras is better, right? The more angles we see of what happened, the more information we have to make a judgment of what really happened. And so he then sort of his acquiesce at the end was, well, at least if somebody jams a phone in our officer's face and there's an attorney on there, at least we feel reasonably comfortable they're not going to shoot us. That was his reaction, but totally unsupportive of what's right for the citizen and very defensive about being held to account. And if you listen to his language in that lousy speech, right? If you listen to that language, he was deploying every excuse, every trick in the book to deflect and distract. And I think that's terrible. I think it's unprofessional. I think it's not demonstrative, or it's not demonstrative of a leader, right? And take responsibility, own it, brother. But they can't do it, man. They can't freaking own it.
Something they also utilize right there. It's black faces in high places sometimes care more about the high places than other black faces, right? And you see this in this country, you see this in other countries, right? You have to make the group that's getting hurt the face of your campaign. Yes, I'm most likely that police department is predominantly white and whatnot, right? But you gotta make sure you put 2 black men in the camera view, right? When the CIA wants to destabilize South America, Africa, the Middle East, they use ethnic groups of those regions. You're not gonna see white people doing it. This is a practice that the white man has used forever. This is the practice.
Absolutely.
I want to fully disclaim that my son-in-law works for Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. Sorry, he's a police officer.
What?
Yeah, I have a family member.
But he is such a good guy. He is like one of the, and when I told him I didn't want to tell him we were doing this. I was afraid. And I was like, I don't want him to think I'm anti-police, because we're not. We're just pro-Constitution, right? When I told him about it, he goes, you know what? I really think this is needed because, there are times that I'll pull somebody over and they'll just blurt out whatever. And they're so nervous and whatever. He goes, they need somebody, right? Because I've seen people really sort of eat themselves up where I would have just let them go and they just talked, right? So he's a good guy.
Yeah, I'm under 21. I got alcohol. It's the lid is off, and
it's like you have the good apples of the bunch, and then you got the bad apples, and they overshadows the good ones. So they think all of them on the same energy.
I agree with that. And if you think about it, let's talk about that as a dynamic, if you don't mind, because I think you're onto something. I believe that the truly terrible officers who are not fit for the uniform and don't have the right temperament for the job, I think that's a very small percentage. Let's say it's 5%, right? Which is tiny compared to the 95 who are just trying to get through the day and do their jobs and make it home to their families. Here's where the problem comes in at. The unions and the other officers who know that these people didn't follow police protocol or policy or whatever, they don't hold them accountable. And so here's the deal. When I was in the military, I was an Army officer. And one thing we used to say is police your own, right? Police the people in your own unit. Don't be pointing fingers at somebody else's unit, right? Make sure your stuff's together. Make sure your people are doing their jobs and doing it right. Unfortunately, that level of sort of discipline doesn't carry over to the police department because there's this blue wall of silence, right? Where you see your boy doing something wrong, you're going to probably be punished for telling on him, right? And so the whole system is whacked, right? And so I'll say that there are good cops because my son-in-law is just one of the best guys I know, right? And I believe that if he saw wrongdoing, he would call it out, even though he knows that it would risk his job. But not everybody's my son-in-law.
Yes,
absolutely. Mr. Norman, would your experience do you feel your experience would have been different if you weren't previously involved in a campus activism event? Do you think things would be different from you, or do you think the outcome would have been the same?
So Vanderbilt made a list of everybody involved in activism, right? And if you didn't know this, they expelled multiple students, and I can find the photos really and send it to you. They made at least 20 people move off campus abruptly with nowhere to go because they are part of protests and whatnot. So yes, Vanderbilt put people on a list, and I feel like that does affect you. Yeah, it does, right? Because think about which group of, I'm not even going to go into specifics. What group of people can you not talk about at all without having a stain on your political career, your future jobs, and all that for the rest of time. And Vanderbilt was trying to appease that group of people. So,
yeah, and then you said it, Doug. Anytime an organization is compiling a list, that's already a bad start.
Yeah.
If you think about it, the Nazis had lists. The Soviets had a list of the people they needed to send to Gulag, right? It starts with the list. And so if you don't think that the government doesn't have their list, they do at the local level all the way up to the federal level. And honestly, lists are dangerous, right?
Absolutely.
But we know they exist and nobody calls it out. So good
unless
call
when
out.
the list get deleted and disappear. And maybe the list never existed. You see what I'm referencing right now.
Well, man.
Well, now ICE has a list, right? ICE has a list
they
of
have
immigrants.
multiple lists, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's got a list now. It's like, look, I'm sad right now to see the state of, I've always been saddened about policing, but now I'm saddened about the state of our government, meaning the government now believes it's more important than its citizens. And maybe it's always believed that, but now we're seeing that in full effect, meaning there's no longer a make-believe or pretend, right? And what we know is that, the very wealthy and influential, the super rich, they've got this government, bought lock, stock, and barrel. To me, anybody who believes that's not the case, right? Where if you're a free politician, you should be able to criticize police. You should be able to criticize, let's say, Israel. I'm going to say the word, right? And it'd be okay, right? To me, the First Amendment is all we got in terms of maintaining a civil society. If I can't say the word Israel and put a slight criticism behind that without ending up on the list and being blackballed or ostracized, there is something wrong. And that's a slippery slope. And, look, those who support Israel and what's happening, or who support police, or who support ICE and detentions of innocent people, frankly, if you support that, you may want me on the list, but guess what? One day you're going to be on somebody else's list, right? Let's not go down that slippery slope. Let's respect the First Amendment.
Absolutely. I tell people we're next. They want to lock up the Hispanic people. They're gonna. When is it going to be the black people? When is it just going to be an ethnic cleansing happening in America? Come on now. They're already building machines. There are vehicles. I said machines, but they're vehicles designed to pick up dead bodies that have already been designed and they're going through prototypes. What's that for? Are you planning? And they're like, are you planning to pick up a bunch of dead bodies on the street? What's happening? It's just, we know we can't allow them. Like you said, it's a slippery slope. We're all going to get caught up. It might not be you now. It might not ever be you, but it's going to be someone in your family. So
someday we got 4 years to find out.
I believe we're going to pull back from this, guys. I'm actually optimistic. I wouldn't be doing this business if I weren't, right? Because to me, I think the more people, there's a network effect here. And so a network effect is simply the more people who are engaged in something, the more people want to be engaged, right? And what we're seeing is that, first off, black people are like, we've been telling you for years, so I'm not getting out in your protest, right? Eventually, maybe we'll join it, but we don't need the guys who get shot first, because that always happens in the movie, right? And so at the end of the day, what we're talking about is, I believe that there's activism of people that I've never seen active before. And to me, that's a sign that that there's enough resistance to push this back, right? And it doesn't hurt that the administration's in turmoil right now over the Epstein files. We couldn't have a podcast without talking about the Epstein files. So that doesn't hurt the situation either, because I loved seeing governments, I don't care whether it's ours or anybody's government, destabilized against their own people, right? Meaning where the people are gaining their power back, because that's one thing that, that needs to happen across the world, is the citizens need greater power and influence over their own governments. And we are so far away from what's ideal. And so anytime I see government sort of on their heels, that's a good thing.
Absolutely. I saw again, a post. What comes to mind for me, again, we have 4 years to find out and see how this goes. It hasn't been a good 6 months, but you're right? People are realizing that, hey, I saw a post the other day. Hey, these seats. I think now more than ever, we're paying attention to who we elect because we're seeing the outcome of what happens when I'm not talking about president wise on the local level. I think people are realizing, listen, I need to get my representation. I need to get it right, and I need to pay attention to this.
That's
I need
right.
to pay. I need to make sure that my state has the representative in power to speak on my behalf and represent me as a state, but also mayors. I've never seen so many people at the polls locally, and me myself and I've been really interested in learning who my officials are. And I told my girl this the other day. I was like, she's like, she's getting ready to vote. And I said, babe, I don't know these people. I don't know these kind of, I'm trying to find sources and look up who my political representative is and who I want to place in the seat. I think to your effect, Mr. Walton, people are becoming increasingly educated and they're educating themselves. Mr. Norman left Vanderbilt. Thank God. He hasn't left the state yet because everywhere else is too boring for him. But he's educated now. He realizes they said it in the movie Sinners. It's like it's better to deal with the devil you know than the devil you don't know. Right? He's familiar, he's educated, he's aware where he's stepping. He's watching his step, and now he's more conscious. And again, brother, I'm sorry all of this happened to you and everything that's been happening to you. It's tragic, brother. I'm really sorry it's happened to you. And thank you for reaching out to me and Karmea to put this together. You lit the fire on all of this, Mr. Norman. You were like, hey, I was thinking XYZ, XYZ, and now here we are, right? So
I mean, of course it's not fun and it hurts you to go through this, right? But every day I think about if it was anybody else, this would have been business as usual for Vanderbilt because this isn't the first time they've done it. The cop literally told me, we put it as a quote in the complaint, we arrest people for trespass all the time, whether or not it's a mistake. He literally just said that. He said it. So this isn't the first time doing it. They know what to do. Vanderbilt has an office of general counsel, full-time attorneys on campus who tell the cops what they need to write. It's literally a whole system. You have the attorneys to cover your asses, right? You have the cops. You have the school. So Jeremy Burgoyne isn't even a cop. That's why he didn't have a rank. He is the student affairs. Oh no, excuse me. He is the honor council and student accountability director, right? He's never had police training, and he just points and shoots. Have Mr. Norman arrested. Our attorneys are going to figure out what we need to put down. The cops are going to do it. They have everything in house, and they can just do it. That's like if McDonald's has a police department and the Burger King CEO keeps getting arrested by McDonald's cops, and you're just like, oh, well, we don't know what the correlation is. It's almost like we have too much power. And it's a private police department. I sent you all those public records requests because I did a public records request, right? They denied it. They said, well, we're private. And then I did a public records request for my own information. They said, well, it's about you, but it's owned by Vanderbilt, so we're not going to give that to you. I went through the police department's compliments and complaints form, and they said, well, you're suing us, so we're going to deny this as well. I went through the equal opportunity and access office of Vanderbilt University. We're now at the third method I put a complaint through. I said, hey, I want to do it for all of these people listed on the lawsuit and additional actors that we couldn't sue. I want to do it for Jessica Carter. I want to do it for Neil Jamerson. I want to add these people. And they said, well, you're not taking classes right now. So if you want to come back and take classes with us, we're going to let you do it. But, if you actually come back to school, we're going to use your arrest as a disciplinary strike, and you'll have to go through this process where you could be expelled. So, they want me to come back to automatically expel me. I'm talking about they have me from every angle. They have it through the school system, the court system. They have just everything. They got me from every angle because they're $1 billion, $14 billion or more maybe now endowment, and they just have the power to do whatever they want in Tennessee.
Do you feel the university dispatchers are trained to understand legal ramifications of what they say?
I don't think anybody's trained on that. I do know they're going to be very prepared for depositions because they have a full staff of Office of General Counsel. And on top of that, they retained an outside law firm. And it's funny because there's this guy with the last name Klein from Solomon and Klein. He's a named partner who's handling Vanderbilt's case for him. He wrote a book literally, I can't think of the title right now, but if you look him up and look at his book, he's bragged about this, right? He wrote a book on how to mitigate jury compensation for plaintiffs. Like he wrote a book on how do we screw over people who get their rights violated and benefit the municipality the most. That's literally what his book is on. And so Vanderbilt has all of this, just all of this. They got their own fully staffed lawyers and an outside law firm versus my 2 attorneys, right? But we're still going to fight and try to punch it through. You know, it's an uphill battle, right? It's an uphill battle.
So this has been an epic conversation. This has been powerful. This has been dynamic. And I want to say this to you, but I'm going to let everybody else go first. Mr. Walton, any final nuggets, any final words? And then we're going to go to Mr. Norman and then Karmea and then me last. Mr. Walton.
I just want to say, look, I don't want to end on a negative note that, it's all, I believe the future's brighter than we think, right? And it's because of, people like Doug, people, like Marcus and Karmea. We're all trying to engage in a conversation that's valuable, that educates people and has them snap out of the programming that we were sort of raised on, right? And, look, government is not your friend, right? They should be, right? But if you look back at the history, all governments harm their people, all right? And at the end of the day, nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's coming to save you from a flood. Nobody's coming to save you from, whatever. You have to bind together with your community and save yourselves, all right? And so the only thing that saves us as Americans and as a community is the community, right? And we have to push back against power as a community. And yeah, we'll end up on some list or whatever, but we can't be afraid of lists, because if we're afraid of lists, there's worse to come than just being on the list. And so, look, Attorney Schultz here to sort of promote and, the Constitution in multiple ways. Right now, it's for police-initiated contact. But stay tuned for what's to come. We got some special things on the way.
Absolutely. Mr. Norman, my cousin.
Cousin Marcus.
Yes,
so
sir.
I want to personally thank Mr. Walton for creating this app. It really, truly helped me. And I keep up with all the updates from expansion to users and just everything. It's truly helping people, right? I just pray for you. I pray for your family. I pray for Attorney Shield to be as successful as can be, and that everyone has it as an app one day, right? Just so everyone can be protected. And just thank y'all for giving me this voice. I'll try my best to keep being a civil rights advocate in the capacity that I can, and teaching people that, hey, there's a problem here, right here in Nashville, and at Vanderbilt, there's a problem. They're violating people's civil rights through a hospital. They're doing it through the police department. They're doing it just through the school. We have to look at this. I get that a lot of top politicians and lawyers and judges especially come from Vanderbilt Law School and everything, but y'all, come on now. I get you want to go to your little events and not step on any toes, but we have to address the big issue here. So thank you again for having me on, everyone.
Absolutely. How can people connect with you, DJ?
So I have a Linktree, which is Linktree / if you look up Linktree Dougie Norman, DOUGIE space NORMAN, you can see my Linktree. I have a lot of stuff posted there. I have an Instagram where I do a lot of story posts and like Instagram reels and like collaborative reels with people. More of those are going to come in the future. So that Instagram is PLAYBOI.DOUGIE. So Playboy.Dougie, but Playboy with an I, kind of like Playboy Cardi, because I like his music. So
absolutely. He's underground, y'all. He's underground. He got hired for a little bit. Karmea, any final words for our audience?
Well, in the society that we're in, we're just trying to make it home safe. And I think this is a great app to, add in your phone. Additionally, for any one of us, especially our African-American men. If you're driving and you're supposed to be driving, doesn't matter. I think whether you're walking or driving is something that needs to be had. So you guys need to look into that app. It's going to be a great, I'm going to take a look at it myself, even being an African-American female, because they don't discriminate.
Absolutely. This has been an epic conversation and a serious note. I want to thank everyone for making time, sharing space today. Thank you for our audience and tuning in. And thank you for this conversation because it needs to be had. I don't think we're having enough of these. And to the optimist in Mr. Walton, we're on the right path. We're conjoining, we're working together, and we're digging deeper, and we're conversing. All right. And Mr. Norman, I want to wrap my arms around you, brother. Be safe as you go through this. You got what, a year, another year of this. So be safe. Watch where you step in. Watch where you going. Check, look twice. What does it say? Look both ways on a one-way road. Right. I really am praying for you, brother, because you've had a tough battle. You got a bigger tough road ahead of you. So please be safe. Please
I'll
be
try
safe.
my best. Thank y'all.
And I can't
Absolutely.
imagine what type of mental space that you're in, Mr. Norman, going through this continuously.
I've adapted. It's changed me. It's definitely permanently changed me. I'm a different person now, but out of anyone it could have happened to, I'm glad it's me because I think I do have the capacity to make some change and make sure this does not go away quietly and hopefully protect more people from going through this in the future.
And protect
Good job,
yourself.
Doug. Yeah, good job, Doug.
Thank you. Thank you.
Protect yourself. Protect yourself. Absolutely. Thank you all for tuning into the Gentleman Style Podcast. I hope this message has served you. I hope this has been impactful. I hope this helps you all protect yourselves, protect your families. Attorney Shield, get connected. If you got more questions for Mr. Norman, my cousin, check him out. He is dope. These gentlemen, these ladies, they're all dope. Connect. I love you guys. Bye.
I love y'all too.
See ya. Bye-bye.